Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe. Also, I thank you for helping Midnight Broadcast reach 5,000 subscribers. The special broadcast for this milestone will be released on Friday.
This one isn't really long, but it happened when I almost died during surgery. I went into surgery. I remember counting backwards and then a cacophony of noise. Then a steady buzz. When I woke up, I was in an unfamiliar apartment. After a few moments, I recognized it as mine. Got up, got dressed and went to clock in at my job at a fast food place. I talked to my friends about the messed up dreams I was having and they laughed it off, saying I always had weird dreams. The days went on and a couple of days later, I saw someone move a bunch of medical equipment into my apartment building. One of the neighbors told me that a really sick person was moving in. That night, I fell asleep to the steady beep of medical equipment. I kept dreaming I was in the hospital. They were short dreams and I wrote them off as listening to the medical equipment through those thin walls. After a week of steady dreams, I talked to my friend Hillary about the possibility of other worlds being created by dreams and stuff. She got visibly upset and asked if that meant she wasn't real. Getting unnerved, I tried to laugh it off. She grabbed and started screaming, "I'm real, you're the one who's not real." Cops came and took her away. I didn't see her again after that. I started to notice the woods near my apartment. They were thick, dark and foreboding. I had another dream about being in the hospital, but it was interrupted, and I woke up to a knock on the door. It was the cops. They told me Hillary had gone missing and she was last seen running into the woods. It was a small town, so everyone joined in searching for her. It was a warm day and there were other people, but as I got deeper in the woods, it got colder. Snow began to fall. I asked one of the cops nearby if he was seeing this, only to find I was completely alone. I couldn't even see a way out. The only solution seemed to move forward on this convenient path. The path ended in a small pond. I stared at it stupidly. Hillary appeared beside me. "It only gets worse for you," she said, staring at the pond. I looked at her and realized I hadn't seen Hillary since elementary school. I looked down and I was wearing a white dress. I thought, this is where I die. There was no way to go back, only forward. I stepped in the pond. I looked back and Hillary was gone. I continued to sink deeper and deeper until I was sure I drowned. I woke up in a hospital bed. Eventually, it was explained that I fell into a coma for a couple weeks.
Be me around 10 years ago, 12 to 13 at the time. Lived in a swampy region in a town called Citra in Florida. Decent-sized piece of land, around 5 acres or so. Had a big field around a quarter mile from our back door, clotheslines and shit since pour no dryer. One night around 10 p.m. I think. Have 2 younger brothers. At the time, 9 and 10. For some reason mom comes out of bedroom and calls me. "Anon, I need you and your brother to take the clothes out to the line." I argued, of course, due to the fact it was pitch black outside and the lines weren't near the house. Mother insists, so we comply. Myself and my youngest brother, 9, head down the steps out the back door. I was carrying the clothes basket full of wet clothes, heavy as fuck. Lil bro had a shitty flashlight. I think it's somewhat important to mention a little bit more about our property and try and give you a better idea of what we were dealing with. Basically, for around a quarter mile out the back of our house were thick woods. Now, when I say thick woods, you could not see the sky, stars, moon at all until you got out to the field. And another note, our dad used to tell us we lived on an old Indian burial ground to fuck with us. Maybe it was true. We did find a lot of flint and arrowheads on our property, so here we are in the pitch black under the trees heading out to the field anyways. So, on our way out to field, flashlight starts dying. Of course. Start cursing at little brother to fix the flashlight, because I can't see shit. It wasn't his fault, but I was still steamed that I was even having to do this in the middle of the night. He hit it a few times and it became a little brighter, and stopped flickering. Continuing out to the lines. Arrive out there and start hanging up clothes while he holds the light. Another thing relative to the story worth mentioning is that I cannot whistle to save my life. I have never been able to, and I still cannot to this day. However, my little brother was pretty good at whistling, so what happened next didn't really faze me at first. Start hearing whistling. Tune is somber, and I remember that I felt uneasy hearing it. Can't recall how it sounds today, but it was stuck in my head for a while after this. I tell my little bro to cut out the whistling, that it's giving me the creeps. He shines the flashlight into my face, and I was like, WTF. He then shines the flashlight onto his face, and he looks legitimately scared. It didn't register immediately, but I realized that he was not whistling, and that it was getting louder and drawing closer. I turned to look out into the field, and with the dim glow of the flashlight I saw the silhouette of a man around 20 to 30 yards away. I had heard some rustling in the grass, but hadn't thought much of it. We had tall grass in the field, and there were almost always rabbits running around out there. The rustling seemed to be getting faster and drawing closer footsteps. At this point I just looked at my brother and said, "Run." I took off towards the house. For some reason dumb brother picks up clothes basket and tries to run with it. He was right behind me until we hit the wooded area of the property. He couldn't see the ground and he tripped on a stump. Yelled for me to wait for him. Nope, kept running. I guess he caught up to me, because he was right behind me when I finally hit the back door. Slam door shut and lock it. Mom is standing there with WTF look on her face. Tell her story, and she dismisses it, tells us we can worry about the clothes in the morning. We told our dad, and to make us feel better he got his shotgun and brought our dog out there to the field with us. Had a pit bull at the time, was a good dog, to investigate. Walked around the area a little bit and checked it out, didn't find anything, so he said it was probably our neighbor whistling, only our neighbor's porch is like 1-2 miles from where we were. My brother remembers it as vividly as I do, and to this day neither of us know what or who the fuck was in our field, but we both agree it was a pretty creepy situation.
I've got a few. I'll post them while I read the thread. First off, because locations and so on jump around a bit, I need to state that I've lived in 9 states, 20 plus cities, and 35 plus different houses, all in a period of 19 years. Which is why some stories will be one place and others will be across the country. Longest I've lived anywhere is 5 years, I think. Shortest is 5 weeks. 15-ish. Moved from Indiana to Pennsylvania. We'd planned on moving into a nice, 200-plus-year-old farm. Grandmother's a con artist, moving with us. She lived with us every year of my life from 1 to 16 with the exception of when I was 12. She pisses off our future landlord as we're driving the moving truck from one state to another. Have to quickly find another place at a rest stop using a 2009 smartphone and Craigslist. It's an older house in a really small town outside Reading. Seems okay. JPG. Get there. Landlady's nice, lives in another house on the property. Offers to take us into town for lunch. Town's built onto a rather steep hill. Cafe she takes us to is overlooking some river that goes through town, a rocky part of it. Oh, yeah, a lot of people die down there. She just randomly tells us. Really casually. Laughs about it. Start of our fucking troubles right there. 2-story house. Mother and I are on the 2nd story. I ended up with 2 bedrooms as they opened into each other. Grandmother has only downstairs bedroom. Basement, can only be accessed by going through my grandmother's room, or outside. Attic, can only be accessed by going through my room, the one I sleep in. Attic basically ends up being my 3rd room. Go up there a few days after we move to clean. It's partially finished with drywall and carpet, but no paint. Some kid had been playing with paints, little kids' hand paints in pink and blue all over the walls. Some drawings tacked up on the wall, paper seems to be from about the 50s to 60s. Nothing creepy, just scenery mostly. But nothing in them is smiling, either. Like, the sun had a face but it was just apathetic. Apathetic dog, apathetic sun, apathetic everything. Sort of weirded me out. Throw those out, continue cleaning. vacuuming the carpet. Keep sucking up marbles. End up fishing 6 to 7 marbles out of the vacuum cleaner. Older ones, from the 60s. Put them in my desk drawer. Every few days, I'd find more marbles up there. And I'd put them in my desk drawer. Only to find out I'd lost the ones in my desk. I didn't realize it was the same 6 to 7 marbles somehow ending up back up there for years. Attic in general was creepy. Locked from the outside only. Only one key. Found children's toys from the 60s, lots of evidence that it'd been a playroom. 2 crawl spaces. One went out, and had an unfinished floor. The other was on the opposite wall, went behind the stairs, and then turned. On one end of it, you could see children's drawings. On the other, you could see a stuffed animal, and then it turned. Always fucking smelled down there. Not a guy who is spooked easily, I honestly think the house was just creepy, not necessarily haunted, for example, but I knew I didn't want to see what was around that bend. Few weeks after we moved in, I started to hear thumping up in the attic. Too big to be a raccoon or rat, too little to be an adult. Didn't really creep me out, just would keep me up at night because of the noise. Sounded like someone was running from one end of the attic to the other. I'd go up in the morning, and nothing would be out of place. Never found evidence of animals. Like I said, the attic locked. Sometimes I'd be asleep, and it'd swing open with enough force to hit the door to my study, right by the attic door, and make a loud bang. Being me, I'd get up, find the key, and lock it again. Did this 2 to 3 times a week. Surfing online at 1 to 2 a.m. Hear something running around upstairs. Never has happened while I'm still up before. Sort of ignoring it. Gets louder. Still ignoring it. Suddenly, I hear something fall down the stairs with quite a bit of force and slam into the attic door. Jump a foot in the air. Didn't sleep that night for some reason, only went to see what had happened once it was light out and my mom was up. Nothing there. Absolutely nothing. First day we're there, I notice the closet in my room is unnaturally cold. Good 10-20 colder than my room. Had 2 exterior walls, figure it must be that. Even though my space heater was right next to it. Smelled awful and musty. Noticed an exposed beam in the attic. Joked to myself that one could hang themselves with that. My face when landlady's husband did just that about 10 years before. And she didn't fucking tell us until right before we moved out. Before you ask, nothing got rid of the smell either, and because of it, I didn't put my clothes in there. A few other minor things happened on the second story and attic. My computer would turn itself on at night sometimes. My dog didn't like being in my room, I'd have to drag him in there, and he'd sleep pressed up against the door, and my mother's dogs wouldn't go in it. The study was worse, as you couldn't even drag any of them into it, the study's door would swing open occasionally as well, and then refuse to close. Probably a few other things I'm forgetting. I ended up pulling the carpet up in the attic, only to find the floor under it was covered in children's drawings, but that's really about it. Nothing was really overwhelmingly creepy, and I slept fine in my room most nights. I did later find out that in addition to her husband dying, the owner prior to her, and her husband, was a family that moved out in the late 60s, after their kid died, which creeped me out a little. The creepiest part of the house was the basement, by far. House was built in the late 1890s. When going down in the basement, I noticed something a bit odd. It was a bit smaller, about 25%, than the first floor. A few days later, notice that 3 of the walls are stone, One is partially stone, running the length of the kitchen, and then turns to brick behind the stairs. Hole in the wall. Something about it just made me uncomfortable. Finish up, go back upstairs, forget it for a while. Few weeks later, get bored and brave. Shine light in the hole. Furniture in there from the late 1800s, early 1900s. Chair, trunk, dresser. Set up like in a room. Oh. Couldn't see the other half of the room, decided against it. Never looked in there again, never told mother. Knew she'd flip, she's big into the haunted house stuff, wanted to stay someplace for once, forgot about it. Always felt watched from the hole in the basement, though. Grandmother would complain about us going in her room at night and going in the basement. Swore up and down that neither of us were doing that. She'd also complain about us messing with the door, moving stuff around down there at night, and making a general racket. As per usual, the dogs wouldn't go down there, either. Only other thing about the area was the woods. If we went to the city, reading, it was fine. But in the town we were in? Fuck no. Trees didn't bend right, would randomly fall over in good weather. Always a down tree in the roads. They felt like they didn't want you in them, even if you were just driving through. Never saw animals in them. Never saw people in them. Always felt watched. Our landlady told us there was a third house, in addition to ours and hers, on the property, and that we could go look at it if we wanted to. Gave us directions a mile or two up a trail past her house. My mother, dog, and I set out one day to go up there. Got maybe 150 feet in the woods, decided against it. It just was an overwhelming feeling of, not welcome, and my dog was trying to get out of his collar and go home. My mother's one dog will run if he gets loose. He comes back, but for 30-ish minutes you can't catch him until he gets tired. He got out there. Headed for the woods. Stopped a second at the edge of them. Turned around. Went home. Had a rabbit outside. Got out, went missing for a few days. Figured it dead, since we were right by the woods and it was winter. One day, showed up in its cage again, with a broken back and a bloody nose. Died a couple of days later. Other than that last bit, nothing really happened outside. Our landlady's house was built in the 1880s onto a house that was much older, 1810 at earliest, and connected to it via a door. What always bugged me about it, was that her house was in good shape, but the older one was left to rot until it was just 3 stone walls and some old beams. Probably laziness, but it creeped me out that they just let it do that, despite them being connected. We moved after living there for 4 months. Creepiest place I've ever lived. Got a few unrelated stories, though. Last year. Still live with mom. We have a farm now. Bottle feeding a calf, mother has a job that makes her work late. Have to go out and feed it. Previously mentioned dog that runs gets out when I leave the house at about 10 p.m. Takes off running into the woods. Follow him, these woods don't bug me. Can't see him, no light, and he's black. There's a creek back there, and as I'm going over it, bridge, I hear splashing in it. Thinking, that fucking dog is in there, and I'm going to need to give him a bath. Just as I finish that thought, he takes off running past me, dry as can be. Splashing grows louder. Head on back home, find dog waiting for me on the front porch. Few months later. Have a pet llama, out in the field where she is at night working on something. She's a bro, following me around while I'm working. Suddenly, she starts doing this warning call. See, when a llama is startled they start clicking. PPPT sounds sort of. She's doing that full blast, ears back, towards the woods. Heading over there, doing that noise still. Gets to the edge of the woods, obviously watching something. Suddenly gets spooked, jumps, turns around, and runs back to the barn. Decide if whatever it was scared a 250+ pound llama, it's probably not something I want to mess with. Worth noting that this llama is not afraid of dogs, coyotes, or anything else we get in Southwest Michigan. She goes after pretty much anything if it seems threatening, which was why I didn't want to deal with what was in the woods. Live in NC a couple years ago. Old house, again. Not really spooky at all. Used to be a fireplace in my room, boarded up, chimney long gone. Mirror over the mantel. Go in my room, out of the corner of my eye see something move in the room behind me from the mirror. Did that a few times. Every time, there'd be nothing back there. Freaked me out. Closet door in that house would swing open randomly, too. Just, randomly do it. Ended up putting bells on it so I'd know if it did it during my sleep. Bells kept falling off the door handle.
I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Irish legend of the Banshee. Basically it's a female spirit, and to hear her blood-chilling scream is a sign that death is nearby and someone soon is to die. Anyway, a few years ago during the late evening I was walking home and I heard the weirdest loudest scream in my life. I swear it didn't even sound human, but it did sound female. It's hard to explain. I've heard people screaming as a joke, I've heard people scream in pain, but I never ever heard a scream like that before or since. I don't claim it's paranormal, but I instantly thought of the Banshee. In the end no one died, but I was seriously creeped out for a while after, and I avoided walking that route for a while.
Here's mine. Not really paranormal but still scary. I work for a baseball organization. My job is to chalk the baseball fields, batters boxes and foul lines, and put out scoreboard controllers. There are 3 complexes that I do this at. At night I have to go back to the complexes after the games are done and pick up the scoreboard controllers and put them back up in the shed. About a week ago I went back later than usual, about 11 o'clock, to pick up the controllers. It's pretty eerie normally because of how dark and sketchy the area is. I drive up to the first complex and see a Ford parked badly in the back row of the parking lot with no one inside. The games have been over for 2 hours, so there's no reason a car should be there. I didn't think much of it at that time, and I picked up the controllers and went on my way. At the next complex there was another Ford truck in the otherwise empty lot parked carelessly in the back row with no one inside. I'm a little creeped out now. I started hearing noises at this point when I walk. Stuff like feet shuffling in the gravel and chain link fences quietly rattling. I ran and get all the controllers in the shed and ran like hell back to my car. I drove over to the last place and saw yet another empty truck parked in the back of the parking lot. I'm debating whether to get out of my car or not now at this point because I'm that afraid. I eventually get enough courage to leave my car and get the one controller that was out. The shed of this site is right by the bathroom, and as I crept up to the shed, I heard a man's hushed voice coming from the woman's bathroom. I couldn't make anything out that he was saying, but he sounded angry. I was able to unlock the shed and put the controller in without drawing any attention, I assume, because the man kept talking. When I closed the door though, the talking abruptly stopped and I heard footsteps walking out of the bathroom. I ran as fast as I could back to my car and didn't look back. I got in my car and sped all the way to my house, which was about 2 miles away. When I got out of my car, I heard police sirens in the distance. I went inside and locked all my doors. I don't know if I was ever in any real danger or not, but it was one of the scariest moments of my life. I promise you this is completely true.
I'm still in the process of writing this out at length. It's a bit all over the place at the moment, so Greentext will have to do for now, but it doesn't cover everything. March 1998. Fall and bang head at school. Wake up standing over toilet taking a piss. Feel head, no bump, no cut, no pain. Finish using the bathroom. Wash hands. Look in mirror. Whoa. I'm older and bigger. My hair is different. I have stubble. I'm wearing a suit. Leave bathroom. Go downstairs. House full of people also in suits. Everyone avoids eye contact with me. See funeral car through window. Flowers arranged to read mum. See my nan. Nan, WTF is going on? You need to be strong, Anon. WTF is going on? Where is my mum? This is her funeral. WTF, WTF, where is my dad? Nan starts crying. He's been dead for 8 months. Run out of house. Keep running and running. Sit down on bench. Search pockets. Find wallet. I have credit cards and driver's license. WTF, I'm 15. WTF. Walk around confused. Some hours later, go to shop. Buy water. See newspapers for first time. Read date. The 22nd of November 2003. 6 months later, after having gaps filled in by people that claimed to be my friends, who I have no memory of, and my girlfriend of 2 years. Again, I don't remember her. I sold everything I inherited and went traveling. I'm still traveling now and it's been 10 years. I'm currently in Amsterdam. 2 weeks after waking up, my best friend came over to see me. The first thing he said was, "So Anon, I heard you were back." I have videos taken of myself during the 5 years I don't remember. The person in them is not me. Speech patterns are wrong, body language is wrong, everything is wrong.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Oh.